There's a name in South Korea that sparks inspiration in many hearts. Seon-dal. While his story dates back centuries, the lessons of his wit, courage, and ingenuity have carried on through generations. Seon-dal isn't just a man of history. He's a legend, forever etched in the tales of cleverness and determination. The story begins long ago during the Joseon Dynasty, a time of strict hierarchies, heavy taxes, and limited opportunities for the common man. Seon-dal was not born into wealth or privilege. He had no power, no title, no land. What he did have, however, was a sharp mind and an unyielding spirit. Growing up in poverty, Seon-dal quickly realized what life would require of him. He either had to accept his fate or outsmart it. Now, as the story goes, Kim's biggest challenge came during a time when the government imposed a hefty tax on water usage. The rivers and streams, natural as they were, had been claimed by the authorities. Whenever commoners needed water, for drinking, farming, or anything else, they had to pay an unreasonable tax. It was a cruel system, especially for the poor, who often couldn't afford to pay for water, one of life's most basic necessities. Seon-dal saw the injustice. He didn't just feel anger or frustration. He thought, he planned. That's the kind of man he was. He didn't aimlessly wish for change. He understood that for anything to shift, he had to take action himself. And so he devised a plan that was both bold and risky. Kim approached the government officials and claimed, with ultimate confidence, that the river belonged to him, not to them. It was a wild statement, one that even startled the officials. After all, this was a simple man with no title or ownership papers to show. But Seon-dal did not falter. In an impassioned speech, he argued that water, being a gift of nature, could not belong to anyone, even the government. His eloquence and audacity silenced the room for a brief moment, and then the officials burst out laughing. A poor commoner claiming ownership of the river? It was so absurd to them that it wasn't even worth considering. But Kim challenged them further. If they believed the river didn't belong to him, then they had to prove it. He was willing to go to court, willing to put his name and dignity on the line for what he believed in. Word spread quickly across the land, and soon the people, especially the poor, were rallying around him. Kim knew that the issue was bigger than just him. He had become the face of resistance against exploitation. Seon-dal had ignited a movement, standing as a beacon of hope against tyranny and injustice. When the case finally reached court, Kim stunned everyone again. He presented his argument with wit and sheer confidence. This wasn't about legalities for him, it was about fairness. He implored the court to recognize the absurdity, not of his claim, but of the government's taxation of water. As Kim spoke, his words resonated. He wasn't just speaking for himself, he was speaking for every farmer struggling to grow crops, every villager fetching water, every family simply trying to survive. And here's the twist. Seon-dal knew the claim was unprovable. He wasn't naive. But by demonstrating the absurdity of not only his claim, but the government's claim of ownership, he put the legal system on the spot. In his own way, Seon-dal had flipped the entire situation upside down. The case was settled in a way no one had expected. The taxation was loosened, and Kim's courage went down in history as an act of defiance against injustice. Seon-dal was remembered not for having changed the law directly, but for having challenged a system bigger than himself. He had shown the power of wit and courage in a time when neither was easy to muster. His story wasn't just about fighting back. It was about believing in the value of fairness and speaking out, no matter how impossible the odds might seem. The lasting lesson of Seon-dal isn't just about cleverness. It's about knowing when and how to speak up for what's right. It's about realizing that even a single voice can spark change. His story reminds us all that intelligence isn't just about knowing facts. It's about understanding how to use them to shape a better future. And perhaps, most importantly, it's about having the courage to take the first step towards something that feels out of reach. Even today, when South Koreans hear the name Seon-dal, they think of resourcefulness, bravery, and the strength it takes to challenge the status quo. His story lives on as a reminder that cleverness isn't just about solving problems. It's about having the heart and spirit to see them through. So the next time you find yourself feeling powerless or small against a massive challenge, remember Seon-dal. Remember his audacity, his boldness, and his belief that even the ordinary can achieve the extraordinary. Let his story remind you to keep thinking, keep acting, and keep believing that change, no matter how difficult, is always possible.